Hi, folks. Steve Urban here, founder and CEO at Riderflex. We hope you enjoy today's podcast. And as a reminder, please subscribe to the Riderflex show for updates on new episodes. And by the way, if you haven't already, check out the book we recently launched, The Riderflex Guide, Inspiring and Hiring, available for purchase on Amazon. And now, a quick word from our sponsor.
Try the #1 marketing platform for small business. Everything you need from design to marketing to CRM. Learn more at marketing360.com. Marketing 360. Fuel your brand.
David Delcourt on the Riderflex podcast. Hello, David. How are you, sir?
Doing well, Steve. Doing well. Thank you.
You in Boulder? You in Colorado? Whereabouts are you today?
I'm in Boulder, Colorado, indeed, at our warehouse here in Boulder, back in the conference room. So we're about to get dumped on with some thunderstorms per our Colorado spring usual, I guess, after I got a foot of snow up at Winter Park this past Saturday. So what are we going to do?
You know, it is typical April for Colorado, right? But it feels worse because we've just had so much snow this year, right? That's kind of what I was telling somebody earlier today. Like, I guess this is standard April, but I'm just over it, man. I'm ready for it to be done. I don't know about you.
Yeah, I mean, it's rare that we have those. We had maybe 2+ weeks in a row of it just being real cold.
Yes.
There's some snow and all. Normally we'll get those 2-3 days and then 50 degrees and sunny and,
right,
get a little break. It's that 300 days of sun a year that we love so much out here. So you get outside, and then hunker down, and happy to hunker down. But yeah, spring's been a little bit chilly for us.
It has been so far. Yeah, I'm ready. I mean, I love the mountains in the winter and the summer, but yeah, I'm ready for some summer stuff. You got a place up in Winter Park as well?
I wish I had a place up in Winter Park. No, I've got a good buddy of mine from college has a place up there, and we've had this on the books for a while. And
cool.
Friday night to Saturday, it snowed 12+ inches up there. So we got this incredible powder day with me and my two boys, and him and his two boys. That was just completely unexpected and just an awesome kind of goodbye to winter, kind of send off.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Yeah, that's nice. It's great to go if you don't have to come back, right? The folks that try to drive up in one day up 70 and ski and come back like on a Saturday or Sunday, man, it's just not worth it anymore, man. The traffic is a killer.
It's brutal. I mean, we go to Eldora quite often, me and my boys. They're in the ski program up there, 45 minutes door to door. Great. Yes, great. That's my speed.
My youngest son goes to Eldora too. He's like, Dad, it's cheaper, it's easier, there's fewer people. I can get there with no traffic. He's like, it's totally fine, totally fine. So yeah, totally get it. But where are you from originally?
So I was born in the Chicago area.
Okay.
My folks are both immigrated here from Europe. So my mother's English, my father's French. Okay. A lot of kind of the food side of things for me really came from us as a family, just spending so much time in the kitchen together, and that's where we gathered. That's where we, still to this day, I have two older sisters. When we get together, we're all around the kitchen counter and the table, cool. And then moved away from Chicago when I was 10, I believe, down to North Carolina, and that's where I was through. Just outside of Asheville, North Carolina, until college. I went to school up in Connecticut.
I don't hear any North Carolina accent, so it must not have rubbed off. Or when you went to college in Connecticut, it went away. I don't know.
The yuns and y'alls do creep in a little bit if I go back down to Asheville, but the Appalachians. I have I feel like I got the most neutral accent in the world. My dad's got a French accent. My mother's got an English accent. Grew up in Chicago, then Asheville, then Connecticut and Boston. And it just seems like
you're just kind of, What'd your folks do? Yeah. Tell me about your mom and dad a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah. They were, so initially my dad was over here for what was supposed to be a 2-year job working for a French company.
Okay.
And they stayed for 40 something years. I can't remember exactly, before moving back to France in 2019,
Wow.
right before the pandemic. So
Okay.
my dad was in business for almost 20 years. My mother was a stage actress in the
Oh,
Chicago area,
cool.
and then went back to school counselor down in North Carolina for a long time. And both my parents kind of switched. My dad became an educator, and so finished up kind of his career down there, teaching at a couple of private high schools, and then on to some community college and professor type stuff.
Was he an entrepreneur? Is that where you get the entrepreneurial bug, or where does that come from?
It's funny because neither of my parents are at all entrepreneurs, and
Okay.
myself and my two sisters have all gone that route.
Interesting.
So I mean, I think what they did do, especially as immigrants to this country, was kind of always learn to think, learning to learn, enjoying learning, and pursuing what we're passionate about. You can imagine going from business to education, big career shift, kind of in the middle of my dad's career, and my mom also.
Yeah.
So they definitely took lots of risks, I think, which is part and parcel of the whole entrepreneurial journey. And that this idea of it takes three things to start a company, in my humble opinion, which is passion, curiosity, and a problem to solve. Passion, because if you don't bleed it, then when times are hard, it's really hard. And I'm sure you feel the same way.
Oh,
Curiosity, because nothing goes as planned. So
it doesn't. I thought it was always smooth. What are you talking about?
It's just I think about curiosity as what takes you to the next the next product line, or the next channel, or the next marketing idea, right?
It's true.
It's what keeps the wheels moving. And then problem to solve probably should come first in my list, but I think we're all guilty of building things that only we want or we need. But that's the three pieces there that I'm always thinking about.
Were you so you said two older sisters, I think, right? So you were the youngest? Okay. What kind of kid were you? Were you the rebel? Were you like straight A kid student? Or what's your story when you were a youth?
So I like to say that I got into a lot of trouble, but I never got caught. I learned to do things within the lines where needed to be done,
Gotcha.
and then subterfuge for the rest. So kind of tightrope balance. I was always a big athlete. Had good grades all through middle school, high school. College did just fine, even though I partied too much and played too much rugby. And the rest is history.
Were you on a rugby scholarship at all? Or
no, I actually went to school thinking I would play soccer, and then joined the rugby club 2 weeks in, and absolutely adored it. I'd played some rugby in high school because of the local men's club, actually down in Asheville. There wasn't any high school rugby when I was coming up. And I liked the idea of a 3-day to 4-day a week commitment was something that was still fun, high paced, and allowed me to do a lot of different activities, a lot of different things in college. And that was, but yeah, and I played semi-pro rugby in Boston after college through till I was about 30.
No shit. Are you a big dude? What size are you?
I'm about 5'11", 185 pounds now. I was probably about 10 pounds heavier when I was playing.
Man,
but I was always a fly half, fullback.
I see.
Smaller back, not the big guys in the scrum. Did
you ever get knocked out? Like just completely knocked out, laying on the ground, you wake up?
Not cold, not completely cold. I saw it happen plenty of times, and I got plenty of concussions, but they were never terrible. I mean, and one of the
Okay.
reasons there are two big reasons why I stopped playing rugby. One, I had my first my first kid when
Okay.
I was just about turned 28.
Okay.
And I was like, all right, well, maybe I need to start thinking about that. Didn't stop me from continuing for 2 more years, but and then the other
Uh,
one was just the price it was taking, the
oh
toll,
man.
if you will,
Yeah.
on my
Yeah.
body was, and I'm still paying the piper now with knee problems and collarbone problems and scar tissue, and I still
Right.
love the sport. I just I can't play anymore. I turned 40 this year, and
Yeah.
I kept threatening. I was like, oh, maybe I'll go play with the old boys. I'm like, that's even worse. Then we're all out of shape and still running into each other, right?
Uh, that's pretty cool. You got to be pretty tough to play that sport. That's now semi-pro. Last question on this. I'll
Yeah.
move off of this topic, but is that like you got to pay for your own? Like, was it you got to pay for your own meal and hotel, but you could be on the team, or they actually paid you?
No, I was never paid. No, basically we
Yeah.
had sponsored, like we had sponsors, a number
Oh,
of like investment companies, Harpoon Beer, Harpoon Brewing up in Boston was our big sponsor. So you think about that level of activity from fields to coaches to all that, there's you have to have some cash.
gotcha. Gotcha. Okay.
We
Okay.
we'd drive to games in New York, we'd fly down to Atlanta, we'd, kind of it was East Coast and West Coast,
Okay.
and
Okay.
then the playoffs, come whenever. Shoot, that was like June. It was a
Interesting.
long time ago, but
Interesting that you spent time in Connecticut and Boston when you went to high school down near Asheville. Like, why'd you pick the Northeast for school?
so I visited a number of schools, and obviously Chapel Hill was there. I was really close to going to Chapel Hill, and
Okay.
I'd
Okay.
visited a little school called Wesleyan University up in Connecticut that I just
Mm,
really, really loved it while I was there. And while I was
okay.
visiting, I got in. I was waitlisted there, and then got in. I was like, all right, well, that's an omen. And so
Okay.
that's up in Middletown, smack between
Yeah.
kind of Boston and New York. So that
Yeah.
was my thinking was I go to Boston or I go to New York. And my first job out of college was
I
with a
see.
consulting firm in Boston.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Well, good move. That worked. Hey, worked out good. Worked out
Yeah,
fine.
yeah, yeah.
And how about now? You married, kids? You said you had two boys, I think.
Yeah, I'm divorced as of a couple years ago. I got
Oh,
two
I'm so.
boys.
Yeah.
Oh, it's my ex-wife and I joke that we've got the best divorce anyone's ever seen. So
Oh,
that part is great. Being a single dad entrepreneur,
yeah.
that gets a little trying at times, but
Yeah.
they're excellent. One's about to turn 12, the other one just turned 8.
Okay.
So fun age. We ride together, we bike together, we climb together. They're kind of pure Colorado kids, in terms of their activities.
That's great. I always used to say, that 5 to 12, like that's the magic air. That's the magic period right there. Like that is your moment because once they hit puberty and, all that and the teenage years, I don't care how much they love you. They're going to start drifting and they're going to not want, they're like hanging out with dad. They're going to be like, huh? What? No, I got to go. I got to hang out with my friends.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's good. Okay. Very good. So it sounds like you had an easy divorce. That doesn't happen for everybody. So good for you.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, no,
And they're here. They're in Colorado. It sounds like they're here. So they're nearby. Your sons are.
yeah, and actually my ex-wife and I live basically 2 blocks away from each other
Wow.
in
Wow.
Boulder. So it made it real easy for everybody, and
Okay.
the boys can bike back and forth, and especially kind of towards the tail end of the pandemic there, it was like, all right, this is
Yeah, it works.
much nicer than cross the out of state, out of town, whatever you want to kind of call it.
So I'm married to Kim now, my second wife. We've been married for 20 years, but I did go through a divorce and I was single for about 5 years. And I just went nuts during those 5 years. I just went crazy, just bringing home different girl every weekend if I could. I didn't care. I mean, I was like, I was out for myself. What phase are you in? Are you in the go nuts phase, or where are you? And what?
Man, yeah. Well, I will say that my third child, Seed Ranch Flavor Co. and GrownAs Foods, never went anywhere either. So between my boys and being an entrepreneur and running this company and growing it,
You're
there
pretty busy.
wasn't a whole
Yeah,
lot of extra time.
I got you.
But no, I'm dating somebody now who's great,
Oh,
and
well,
I'm not in any rush, we'll put it that way, Steve, to
I hear you. I hear
you
you.
know cohabitate, get married again, any of the above. I think anybody who's gone through a divorce is like, okay, well, how much do I want the government to ever get involved in my life again? At least my love life, right? So
Yeah. Interesting. We'll move on from this, but so my oldest boy's 32. Got divorced about a year ago, and he lives in Oklahoma City, but he went down to Dallas to chase girls with his friends this last weekend. I'm sitting on the back porch last night, and we're having a little happy hour glass of wine with my wife, and Nick texts me a photo. He's like, "Dad, check out this chick I hooked up with in Dallas," and he sends me the photo, and he sends me a photo, and then he calls me, and it's interesting as a dad to talk to your 30-year-old son about like hooking up with a one-night stand chick in Dallas. It's like, this is kind of weird conversation. This is a conversation I've had with my friends. I don't know. It's a little
yeah.
different with my kid, but anyway, my wife, she just gets up and goes inside. She's like, I don't want to hear this. Uh, anyway, well, thank you for sharing some personal stuff with us. I appreciate that. How did you get to Boulder? Did a job bring you here, or you came here for the entrepreneurship? How'd you make this journey?
So my ex-wife's company is in publishing, and they moved from Boston to Boulder. The company
Nice.
was actually previously in Boulder, moved to Boston for 20 something years. I don't know. I'm back to Boulder. So I had visited Boulder before, had some friends here, always loved
Okay.
it. And
Okay.
yeah, so we came out, and when we came out here, I was running another company with a co-founder on the West Coast in San Francisco. So we didn't have a big office in Boston or anything. So this ended up making sense in a lot of different ways. And I've been in Boston for about 10 years, so it was about ready for a change. Speaking
Yeah.
of winters, ooh.
Yeah. Yeah. Northeast winters are tough. Now, Boston to Boulder, though, that's almost like two different planets, man. I mean, it's completely different, right? Really.
Yeah,
I mean,
different and great. I mean, in terms of access to the outdoors, interesting folks doing so
mhm,
many different things. I wasn't in food prior to this, but just the entrepreneurial community here,
mhm,
the investor community here, the
mhm.
kind of cutting edge side. You can go from anything from, CPG and food to aerospace and,
Yeah,
tech, and anywhere in between. There's somebody doing something in Boulder, right?
it's true. Yeah, yeah, no doubt about it. What was the company? So your first, well, let me make sure I got this. Was your first entrepreneurial endeavor, was that the cycle company first? Is that what?
No, my first company was 2007 to 2011. We sold it in 2011. It's called MakeMeSustainable.com. So
Okay. Okay.
all around environmental carbon footprint, cost savings, from the little things that we do every day, or the little things employees of a big company can do every day to reduce those impacts
Okay.
and costs.
Okay.
And then I worked for the company who acquired us for just over a year, and then started Siva Cycle, which was around portable renewable power, starting with the bicycle. So, we call it the USB charger for the bicycle, if you will.
Okay.
And then it kind of transformed into a portable power, like first aid kit for electricity, if you will.
Have you always had the passion for sustainability and, all of that type of, I mean, it feels like you've always kind of been in that market, so to speak. Is that right? And where does that come from?
100%. And even today, with Seed Ranch, there's two big impacts that we see, in terms of what we do. One is all plant-based, the least resources and the most efficient there. In terms of our packaging also, with GrownAs Foods, I made the decision to pay a little bit more for a compostable inner pouch.
Okay.
So it's a fully recyclable box for our mac and cheeses and a compostable inner pouch. So no plastics or foils in there.
Okay.
Per the inspiration, I think that's very much been, my father and my family growing up. He was the kind of guy who would make sure we turned off all the lights and when we left the room, and the heat was never set very high. And I remember we'd be Saturday morning soccer games, and all the other parents would be kind of huddled on the sideline, and my dad would walk around the pitch and pick up trash and throw it.
That's great.
So that's one of those memories that just stuck in my head for sure.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Did you have a big exit at Make Me Sustainable? Small exit, enough to did that kind of get you rolling, or how was it for you financially? Without giving me a bunch of details, just curious.
It was great in the sense of my first entrepreneurial venture. We went out, we raised a little angel money, and we sold it. Right.
Yeah, great.
So there was
Awesome.
There was definitely a positive financial impact for me. I didn't go buy 3 homes, et cetera. Right. So that was, it was an incredible experience that
you were like, oh, this is easy. All I gotta do is start a company. This is no problem.
It's amazing because going down that road, I was 23 when I started Make Me Sustainable. We sold it when I was 27.
Wow. Cool.
And so that was a great experience. Into the next company I started, I kind of figured, well, Steve, I know what I'm doing. I've got this. All right,
of course,
go, right?
Yeah, you're I'm
and
good to go.
that was a different story. We had a kind of catastrophic manufacturing failure at our plant in China. We went from 99% success rate to 100% failure rate with our biggest ever production run. REI was our biggest customer. We shipped them our last pallet, and nothing ever came out of the factory after that. Kind of a confluence of reasons there that I won't get too far into, but
okay.
It was a super interesting learning experience as an entrepreneur, and we never like to have failure, but you look at Bezos, he had monster.com, right? I think he sold for $1 million before starting Amazon or something like that. And there's lots of, I feel like behind every successful exit, there's probably a couple of failures, either total or partial, or whatever you have. But you learn from every single one of them, right?
Yes.
I talk about, there's a couple of other entrepreneurs that I talk with, other peers, as well as some folks who I'm mentoring, and that idea of the return on failure, right? Like, what do you learn from something that is a big enough mistake to be qualified as a failure?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, no doubt about it. You don't hear about all the stories where that failed, right? Most entrepreneurs only talk about the successes, so everybody thinks, oh, hey, start a business, you exit for millions of dollars, and life is great. I mean, that's not reality for most people. So, great experience for you. Yeah, I'm sure you learned a ton. So what happened then? Did you have to go get a regular job? What'd you do then when that failed? Did you take some time off? How'd that work?
So when that kind of the nail in the coffin was, we had a term sheet with a VC group that backed out last minute. Turns out they hadn't raised their fund. I was literally getting
the manufacturer jammed you up, and the VC lied about their money all at the same time.
And so I was getting on a plane to Europe when I got the note. I was literally about to get on a overnight plane to go see my family. So I had a lot to think about, we'll put it that way. Definitely,
boys.
continued a little bit further with that in terms of, making sure our IP that we had didn't go to waste and things like that. But it was during that time that my original co-founder at Seed Ranch and I were starting. We've been friends for a while. We both love spicy foods, and we're both big cooks, kind of home cooks, right? Not as a vocation. And so we started making these hot sauces, thinking, all right, well, it'd be fun is if we made a few, we test them around with friends, and then we make some for friends and family for holiday presents, right?
Okay.
Real simple idea. What ended up happening is people really liked them and wanted to buy them. And I was like, all right, well, I'm between things right now. This is actually something I could pursue. And so we put down an LLC in 2016 as kind of a placeholder, end of 2016, and I started selling kind of locally and then at the farmers market in 2017. So I basically went, I think there was kind of there was a few months in there, but I went directly from the one venture to the next.
I see. Is that the truffle hound sauce that I see on the website now? Is that what that is?
Yep, that wasn't one of the first ones. But that one, I can't remember when we came out with it. That's our bestseller now. But that's the same idea. So 17, 18, 19, farmers markets and events and local grocery, and getting into some regional grocery, some Safeway and Kroger banners out here in Colorado
with the hot sauce. The hot sauce. Okay.
So,
all right. How many SKUs did you have?
So we started with 3.
Okay.
We expanded, 4 to 5 to 6. Today I think we've got 11 sauces, 4 seasonings, and then the GrownAs Foods brand, which launched in 2022. We have the 2-box mac and cheeses, and then a food service kind of bulk powder side.
How about that? So when you were doing the trade shows and you're setting up your little booth and you got your 3 little SKUs, was your wife like, yeah, this is like, was she like, yeah, hey, like what?
She's always appreciated kind of that entrepreneurial side and vibe, and everything I've done has been very mission and kind of passionate driven, right? And so those early those first 3 years, especially the farmers market years, where from April through to Thanksgiving it's 6 and 7 day weeks, because farmers markets are always on Saturday and Sunday, and then a couple during the week, right? And it's not like I was taking Monday off because I was working on Sunday.
Yeah.
So there was some just tough hours there, but nothing but support in terms of what we're doing. And the early traction is always the best. The first sale is always amazing. The first 2 grocery stores you get into, and then King Soopers says, yeah, we'll give this a try in 118 stores. It's like 118 stores. Woo! That was part of it. And we know, and so in the beginning of 2020 we were on the show, or our sauce was on the show Hot Ones. So I don't know if you're familiar with that. Celebrities come on, talk with the host Sean Evans while they eat hot wings with 10 different sauces.
I've seen.
They get
Okay,
hotter
I
and
haven't.
hotter.
Okay, yeah. Okay, all right.
So we were on there in the beginning of 2020. So we did a big launch, party at a local brewery here, and made some vegan wings and had a bunch of sauces and tastings, and then literally probably 3 weeks later, COVID hit, and everything shut. I think they had to cancel one of the shows. Thankfully, they tape a lot of them ahead of time. So we went through season 11 with that. Justin Timberlake was on. Cool. Will Ferrell was on.
Did you have to give them? Did you have to give them a percentage of ownership? Did they get equity for that?
No, it's actually it's an incredible model, because Complex Media, who owns First We Feast, which is they put on the show.
Okay.
from what I understand, they get paid kind of a royalty fee on anything sold, but there's a retail group called the Heatonist that actually is in charge of selling the actual sauce. But so they're cutting POs for us, right?
I see.
So during that time, what they get is an exclusive. So the sauce we gave them, we didn't sell until the end of the show.
Interesting. All right.
Except to them.
Okay.
Right.
So at that moment when COVID hits, you just have the sauce. There's no mac and cheese yet. You're just doing the sauces. Okay.
Correct.
All right. And then COVID hits, and then you're like, oh fuck. Okay. Now what?
Well, I think just like pretty much everybody, right? I mean, outside of probably some, essential workers and folks like that were like, well, I have to continue doing what I'm doing. I mean, there was a absolute moment of panic of,
sure,
is this going to be me going back to just me in the garage? Is this going to, our sales doubled from 2019 to 2020 and 2020 to 21.
Cool.
And, pandemic, a lot of people stuck at home eating the same food, right? You can imagine. I had already made the decision not to, because we at that point were in, I don't know, 500 stores or so. I had made the decision not to be going back to the farmer's market because I was so burnt out and wanted to. That's my specialty. I'm chief of flavor, so I love coming up with the, being the creative side of things. But the daily grunt at the farmer's market was not like sparking joy for me, if you will.
I understand. Yeah, it's hard. Yeah, totally. As you get older too, standing on your feet for 9 hours and no.
Yeah. So we traded in the farmer's market for trade shows kind of thing, right?
Okay.
And that was, the pandemic put a halt on some of that, which was great for us to grow a little bit more, get a little bit more foundation under us. And I was still going in the warehouse, and my team was, at that point, there were 2 of us full-time, maybe 3 of us full-time. We're still shipping.
Okay.
We co-pack everything, so we weren't manufacturing ourselves. So
you didn't have an outside. Oh, I just figured you had a co-packer that also did the distribution. Oh, you did have a. All right, so you had a
co-packer, but we were still doing direct consumer, and we still do a lot of just of our own shipping out of our warehouse here in Boulder.
Oh, how about that? All right, so the co-packer they bring it to you in pallets, you put it in your warehouse, and you and your team ship it out.
Yep.
Okay.
That was,
all right.
And it was during the pandemic. I was stuck at home a lot with my boys, and I've been vegan now for 7 years. They were, omnivores, and then they watched the movie Game Changers and decided that they wanted to go vegetarian.
How'd that even happen? How'd that happen for you? What was the turning point there for you to go vegan?
For me, it was really a health and sustainability piece. So as you can tell from my background, sustainability has always been important for me.
Yeah.
I kind of justify it in terms of, hey, I'm buying, local farmer, produce and meat, and this is supporting the local economy, and it's sustainably, raised, et cetera. But I started kind of as a test. I was doing a month vegan a year, and when was it? Must have been 2016 or so. That month vegan just continued on. I was feeling great. I was feeling like inflammation was gone. The health side, the health benefits were really significant for me.
Okay. All right.
And I just kept going. And then
I got you.
The rest of the things kind of fall into place, right? Once you start doing, kind of that lifestyle. And so fast forward, I'm during the pandemic at home with the boys. They're eating a lot of mac and cheese. And I wanted to have a box mac and cheese that I could eat with them, because none of the vegan ones on the shelf were any good. They're disgusting, to be candid.
Okay, so I don't know anything about it. Does Kraft, do they even make a vegan version, or what? I don't even know.
I believe they make a vegan version that they sell in Australia.
Oh, okay.
And we'll see if it comes here. Annie's has a vegan version, but I was making a lot of Annie's for them, and I wanted something that was healthier, kind of guilt-free, better for you, but really delicious.
Okay.
So they helped me. I kind of said, hey, well, I was already making a vegan cheese kind of popcorn seasoning with Seed Ranch. So we took that as the base and developed out, literally my partners in crime, them and I, over about 6-8 weeks, built out this powder that could be used just the same, prepared just the same way as Kraft or Annie's. And then they started preferring that for the Annie's. And, you got 10 grams of protein per serving in there. Is 25 grams of protein in box. It's dairy free. It's cholesterol free. It's all the things that as a parent, I would like for them, to eat cleaner anyways. And on top of it, if they really love it, fantastic. So that was mid-pandemic. The recipe was born. And then coming out of the pandemic, we created the brand, GrownAs Foods, launched it at Fancy Food kind of officially late June 2022. And today, we're going to be in about, I think, around 800 stores.
Nice.
The end of probably by like the end of May with with the GrownAs Food side.
Now, did your co-founder for the hot sauce that is in the parent company, did you stay in that relationship and run GrownAs Foods up under that original company? How'd you structure it?
So the company is still structured as a single LLC. So GrownAs Foods is a trademark brand of Seed Ranch flavor
Underneath Seed Ranch Flavor Company.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
when you called your co-founder and he's like, hey man, how are the hot sauce sales going? And you're like, yeah, well, I don't know, because I'm at home with the boys making this mac and cheese right now. Was he like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, what do you mean you're making mac and cheese? What's going on with the hot sauce company?
No, and I'll say, so from the beginning, there was two things we knew. One, my co-founder, who runs a natural products company on the skincare side.
Oh,
we
I
knew
see.
he wasn't going to be a day-to-day involved co-founder.
Okay.
So
Okay.
this was
right.
The inception, and the first year was big. He had a lot of experience in the space.
Oh, I see.
And then the other thing is, from the beginning, we did sit down kind of around what are we about, right? We are a flavor company. We're not a hot sauce company. Because we knew that hot sauce was going to be hard to scale. Yeah. It's a very busy category.
It is.
Having unique flavors and kind of that culinary inspiration, which is what goes into all of our sauces, that was never going to be the end all be all. So, and he's been vegan for 20 plus years, and so when I was talking about vegan mac and cheese, it was like, oh yeah, that's a no-brainer.
Okay, I see. Okay, all right. I was wondering how that worked. All right, so you run this new brand under Seed Ranch Flavor Company. Is that original co-founder still with you, or did you buy him out? What's the relationship now?
He's still kind of an advisor and a shareholder in that, and we raised a little money in 2022, a seed round, mainly to launch the GrownAs Foods brand, right?
I see.
I was able to, with the cash flow from Seed Ranch, do all the R&D and get all the initial steps done with GrownAs Foods and for the mac and cheese, but really to grow that and grow the brand. The expense of going into grocery, it's pretty cash intensive. I think the amazing thing about CPG, especially, and the grocery in general, like food is forever, right? You can have fad diets but we all have to eat. And then, the most basic human experience is sitting, around a table together eating food. So the growth and the long-term potential is pretty phenomenal. The short term is that it's a really difficult space to differentiate. Food is pretty ubiquitous as a result of it being forever.
It helps when you have a name like GrownAs Foods.
Yeah. And along those lines, I will say the GrownAs brand has been a tip of the spear type of brand for also our Seed Ranch side. So because hot sauce is such a busy category, and the category managers and buyers at grocery stores and distributors are super busy, and they've got thousands, hundreds,
yeah.
if not thousands of products that they're managing.
Yeah.
But if a brand strikes, you got 3 seconds to grab someone's attention. If you can grab their attention, well, then there's the possibility of a relationship. And at the end of the day, sales and business, revolves around building those relationships, whether it be
No doubt about it.
With buyers.
And for the people that are listening who have no experience dealing with a buyer of a big box store, it's hard because they're beating the shit out of you most of the time, for whatever reason. Are you running the hot sauce? Is the hot sauce under a different brand and URL as well? Because I noticed you said there's a bunch of different SKUs on the hot sauce, but I only see one of those on the GrownAs Foods website.
Right. Yeah. So we're working on kind of integrating the two sides. Obviously, we want them to jive. SeedRanchFlavor.com is our hot sauce URL.
I see. All right.
So again, same company, two sites. TBD over the next 6 to 12 months if we keep those brands separate, if we bring everything under one roof. But for right now, they've got their own niche and their own kind of progress in those categories.
I personally like the GrownAs Foods brand name because it's super catchy, super original. I mean, yeah, I don't know. If it were me, I might move everything under that. But I don't know what your following is on the other sites or social media or whatever. I don't know how much following you got, and it's not super easy to just take a crowd of people and move them over here. Sometimes they don't bite on it. So I can see the dilemma for sure. Okay. I was wondering what the deal was. All right. So you're kind of running right now. You're kind of managing two different brands. Hell, bro, it's hard to build one brand, much less two simultaneously. That is difficult because then you got all the social media related to both brands. You got
yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I got a great team. It's a small team, but everybody has been with me for a while at this point. I think to a T, they all started as, hourly interns working for me at the farmers market.
How about that? That's cool. That's cool.
And it certainly is challenging. It also allows for the brands to play off of one another.
I see.
Some people tell me, well, you're crazy. Just run hard at the hot sauce. People, or just run at the mac and cheese. We've streamlined as much as possible in terms of back end so we can manage a couple of different brands, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But I always say, you got to be a little crazy to start a company, be an entrepreneur in the first place.
No doubt.
Because going into it, the odds are stacked against you.
Totally.
And going into it, if you figured out what you want to do and you've got maybe a nice salary sitting on the other side of the table, if you just go work for a big brand, right? It's much more of a done deal. But the highs are, Everest, the lows are the Grand Canyon. And you just try and stay above sea level, I guess, right?
You wake up every night, every once in a while in a cold sweat, 3 a.m. and walk around the living room. Do you still have some of those?
That's how I walk around all day. So at night, I escape it. No. Yeah. I mean, there's no end. It's not when, it's not if problems are going to arrive. It's when, and you just kind of got to be ready.
It's true.
I think
it's true. It's true.
The flip side to it is, the how I built this podcast with Guy Raz. He always asks at the end, how much of this is skill, how much of this is luck?
Yeah. And
it's such a great question because it's like, well, of course I believe I'm skilled, but also luck plays into it, and
it's both.
I think the best answer I heard was it's about being prepared for luck. And I really like that because it's like, can you take advantage
That's a good one.
Of when the fish just jumps into your boat and you're the fisherman, right? It's like, okay, well, here it is. That's lucky.
Isn't it interesting when you're visiting with your friends that just have regular jobs that have never been an entrepreneur? You can talk about the life, you can try to tell them stories, but the reality is, unless they've been an entrepreneur and a business owner, it's just hard for them to fully grasp what it's like, the emotions, the stress, the highs, the lows. it's hard because I have a couple of buddies here in town that, a couple of beer Friday buddies or whatever, but I try to talk to them, but they have regular jobs, right? They've never lived it. Right. And so I try to talk to them, but I can tell it's not registering.
Yeah.
It's a different lifestyle. You do have to be a little crazy. I thought the other day, I told my wife, I said, Riderflex as a recruiting firm has been alive 7 years. I was like, we've already beat the average, right? We've already we're already like way past the average. So like even if it just all crashed tomorrow, I could walk around saying, hey, I had a business for 7 years, supported my family for 7 years. That's something, because it's hard to do. It's really hard to do. So what's your plan, David? Now, are you in another cash raise? Do you hope Kraft Food knocks on the door and buys you? What's the plan? What are next steps?
Yeah, right now is about the worst time in the last 10 years to be raising money.
Yeah, no doubt.
It's a hard time, economics, et cetera.
Yep.
Inflation, you name it. There's lots of different reasons, and we don't need to get into them. But CPG is a cash intensive business. There are ways, and we bootstrapped until 2022, right? I mean,
when you got the first big order in from a grocery store, and then you're like, oh shit, now I need cash to produce this shit.
Oh no, we had we were working with King Soopers in 2018, Safeway in 19, Whole Foods in 19, all on the sauce side, but we just navigated relationships, and we went into areas where we didn't have to free fill. We had, we were able to cash sustain the business, right? And
gotcha.
Through that, launch the GrownAs business.
Yeah.
In terms of the present, I'm not actively raising, but will be soon, and we're continuing to grow. We're continuing to go, and we've won a lot of new business. We went into Sprouts National and their innovation set, did really well there. We're hoping to stay in that store. We're into King Soopers and City Market here locally, in Hy-Vee in the Midwest. We're in Harmons out in Utah. And talking with a lot of other folks, in terms of the GrownAs brands, but also the Seed Ranch side. So cash is needed, and I think anybody who's worked in CPG knows that there are the outliers that didn't have to raise any or barely had to raise any, but the vast majority of your household names have raised a lot of money, or brands that have become household names, I would say. But the plan is to continue growing this. I don't know. This will probably not be the business I hand down to my kids. My plan is definitely to grow this and continue moving. Also, as an entrepreneur, I have a new idea every week of something I want to do. Of course, I've got to focus right now in terms of what we're growing. But I do like to entertain those, run down, do 30 minutes of chat GPT prompts and see how far I get with an idea, right?
It's so good. It's so funny. I sent my couple of family members an apparel idea on Sunday, and my wife's like, what have you been doing in there the last 2 hours? I was like, well, I got this idea. She's like, what are you talking about? She goes, no, focus on the recruiting firm.
I've asked my boys a couple of times. I said, hey, if because they'll come down and work for me in the warehouse sometimes on the weekend, and I love it because I'm like, here's your cash. Like you can see the value of money. Yeah. And for me, it's just fun. They've seen me work pretty much every weekend their whole lives, right? I always take one full day off, unless I absolutely can't, and then try and, it'll be a Saturday or a Sunday morning, just get done what I need to. And then Sunday evening, I'll kind of prep my week. Yep. But I've asked them multiple times, hey, you guys want to start something? I'll help you. Do you want to do like a healthier cookie, 4 kids by kids?
There you go.
And they're kids. They're like, no, we want to go bike and play with our RC cars. I'm like, all right, fine. I get it. My first entrepreneurial endeavor, I'll tell you, Steve, was I discovered that you could buy really big bags of blow pops this was in like middle school, and I'd buy them for about 10 to 15 cents a piece and then sell them for 50 cents at school.
Nice.
And I had a really good little business going until the principal was like, you can't do that anymore.
How many employees now total across the enterprise, so to speak?
So there's myself and 3 full-time employees.
And then you outsource. So you outsource, well, the co-packing, of course. Do you outsource like accounting and HR and all this? So basically, you and your team are handling sales, some marketing, and some distribution.
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, we got I have one full-time warehouse person here in Boulder, and so she manages direct to consumer, direct to retail, as well as distributor and export, right? And then this kind of ordering for co-packing, because we're on a tolling basis, and then marketing and branding. My main role is in the kind of CEO, janitor, and everything in between, right? But sales, and we do have a broker, and we have a small Amazon agency we work with, and outsourced bookkeeping, kind of part comptroller, that kind of stuff.
I didn't see the mac and cheese on Amazon. Did I miss it?
Oh, it's there.
Oh, it is. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. So it's there. So are all the hot sauces on Amazon as well?
Yes, sir. Yep.
Okay. All right. That's good to know. All right. Very good. Because that was one of my questions for you. Okay. If you're closing deals with a new grocery store, you're the one flying to Bentonville and sitting in the Walmart cute little thing and doing the thing, right? You're the guy.
Yep. This me. And we do have a broker we work closely with, who I hired at the end of last year, and they're great.
Okay.
But at the end of the day, a broker, in my opinion, it's kind of like a distributor, right? Where a distributor, really what they're doing is taking your product from your warehouse and delivering it to grocery stores. And you have to use them because the grocery store doesn't want to place 7,000 different orders, right? Yep. With a broker, they're definitely getting meetings, but you're the one closing them at the end of the day, right?
Absolutely.
And they don't have enough time. I say about most grocery buyers, folks who work for distributors, like, they're all human, right? But they, just like us, are slammed. They got a million different things on their plate, and so any way you can get any opportunity to get in front of them, build a relationship, and build a human relationship, I think is the key to success and long-term success in grocery.
Part of the problem with the buyer relationships, though, I used to work for a horticulture company that grew bedding plants for Lowe's and Walmart and Home Depot. Part of the problem is they purposely shuffle those buyers around when they start thinking, okay, Johnny's too close to all of his, little vendors. We don't want any deals going on. So let's change the buyer so that everybody's got to rework everything. I feel like they do that on purpose. Am I right? I mean, what do you think?
I wouldn't be surprised at all. No, I mean, I think, there are some long-term buyers, or some, and it's why there are so many rules put in place, but
no doubt.
As I would say, this conversation, we could have done it over a coffee or a beer and had a great conversation. I'd be like, oh yeah, I know Steve. Steve and we're friendly. Maybe we're not friends, but this is the basic level of, whether it's 15 minutes or 15 hours at a trade show, you end up spending time with somebody. That's a unique experience, because otherwise it's all email and LinkedIn and all of these digital touch points. So the opportunity to put a face with a name, and even funnier was during the pandemic, didn't see anybody, right? And then I started meeting these people that I've been talking with through LinkedIn or whatever, and it's always amazing, like, wow, I thought you were like 5'10" and you're 6 foot. You're like 6'11", or
totally true.
Like it's a you think their personality is going to go in one direction, then it goes completely the other.
Yes, no doubt. Real quick for the listeners, I don't want to ask you one last question. I know we're out of time. So seedranchflavor.com, that's where you can go get the hot sauces. Okay. GrownAsFoods.com for the mac and cheese. For the listeners. You can also connect with David on LinkedIn. I'm guessing he's not opposed to that. If you want to send him a note, any other URLs or social media you want to mention real quick? Is that anything else we should call out?
At Seed Ranch Flavor and at GrownAs Foods are on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and then LinkedIn, open to it. And if we're in Sprouts, King Soopers, lots of different grocery options. If you can't find them there, Amazon, GrownAs Foods, and Seed Ranch Flavor.
Also, if you are a single female with lots of money in the bank and you're looking for a new friend, David's also on all the dating sites. I'm sure you can find him. Just play it. Hey, on a serious question, real quick before we hang up. A serious question. We can cut this out later if you want to, but I was just curious what your dad thought. What's your dad's comment on France? Don't they? It's hard to find that in the news. I don't feel like anybody talks about it, but I see stories about unrest. But I can't hardly find anything because it doesn't seem like the news channels talk about it. What's your dad saying, real quick?
Well, it's funny. My parents spent most of their careers in the U.S., right? So the unrest in France is really around this shifting the retirement age from 62 to 64, is it? Or is it from 60 to 62? I can't remember.
Is that what the whole thing is about?
Yeah.
Just that?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And so my parents are like, wait, Medicare doesn't kick in and until 67 now or whatever. Like, what are these people complaining about? There's pros and cons of the socialized capitalism system.
Yeah.
And we can get into those on a different podcast.
I have to bring you back.
There's no better place in the world to start a business in the U.S. Let's just put it that way.
Amen,
As
brother.
an entrepreneur,
Yeah.
this is
No doubt.
capitalism is best. So,
no doubt, David. Thank you, sir, for sharing your story on the Riderflex podcast. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, it was a great time, Steve. Thanks for having me on.